Hi folks, good afternoon to you all. Welcome to another episode in our Tug Life series webinars. This session is a super interesting exploration into the future of paid social media, where AI and data analytics is reshaping the very fabric of digital advertising as we know it. Now, this afternoon, we're going to embark on a journey where I personally strongly believe innovation meets insight and strategy meets science. Now, I can see we've got a few people joining us still, so we'll start in a few minutes. Whilst we wait, just to say I've had a few questions in already, which is fantastic. There is the ability to submit questions at any point. We'll cover those off at the end. If you have submitted a question and we don't get around to it, don't worry, we'll reply with an answer when we send you the recording of the webinar. So, okay, let's go on to today. Let me introduce myself for the speakers and the session today. So for those of you who don't know me, and it's a first for a Tug webinar, my name is Faye Defan. I am the UK MD here at Tug. We are a performance-driven digital global marketing agency based in Shoreditch. We're independent, award-winning and international. We've been performance specialists since 2006, and we're lucky enough to work with these amazing ambitious brands across many different industries, from B2B and B2C. Now, I am joined today by two great speakers, Ian and Roddy. Unfortunately, our Reddit panelist has been taken ill, so he's unable to contribute today. We can, however, circulate the content that he was going to present, and we will make sure that we do that with the recording of the webinar after the session today. But the show, of course, goes on. We have our fabulous Ian Khan, Media Director at Tug and Automation Specialist. Ian is a regular speaker at panels, so welcome to you, Ian. And I'm also joined by Roddy Fitzpatrick, Acquisition Manager at TikTok, who we've worked with for some time now, a regular panellist and responsible for launching UK's top agencies onto TikTok advertising. Welcome to you, Roddy. So our topic today, super interesting, super on point, next generation paid social, and of course the AI and data impact. Now, we're all working in an era defined really by unprecedented technological advancement. I think we're probably all in agreement around this webinar that we are staring at the landscape of paid social media, which pretty much stands on the precipice of transformation. Algorithms are increasingly sophisticated, data sets are growing exponentially, and as a business, you're going to find yourself at a crossroads. Either adapt or be left behind. Now, in this webinar, we're going to unravel this dynamic landscape and explore not only its challenges, but its opportunities. So for the next 40 minutes, Ian and Roddy and myself are going to provide invaluable insights into this intersection of paid media, AI and data analytics. And today, our content is going to include evolution of paid social. Then we're going to look at next generation strategies, so at data, deep learning, audience and creative, how to unlock first-party data, and then measuring the causal impact. So learning how to bridge those seemingly disconnected data sets. So, Ian, I'm going to pass to you first. Perhaps you can kick us off with how paid social has evolved.
Thanks, Faye. So I'm going to start talking about the evolution of the industry, where we currently stand, some stats about the current state of social media marketing, and some of the advancements that we've seen with AI in the last year. So just to kick things off, a couple of charts showing on the left here the popularity of the social media channels and the number of users they have. Unsurprisingly, Facebook sits there at the top, but then we have things like YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, and also TikTok, which is growing rapidly. So we can see here that the space is evolving. There's a lot more social channels than there were in the past, and this gives advertisers a unique opportunity, but also a challenge to find their users across all these different channels. And on the right, we can see that the amount of investment in social media advertising is consistently increasing year over year. So especially with the advancements in AI, there's a lot of additional opportunities for advertisers in this space. Just wanted to call out a couple headlines from articles. These are all from just last year. Most of the channels that we use and most of the social media channels that we advertise on have all announced advancements in AI. So either from an optimization point of view, using that AI to help optimize campaigns and process data, but also from a generative AI point of view to help advertisers create AI generated content and help their ads be a bit more useful for advertisers in terms of that AI generation. The main point to pull out here is that paid social media advertising has become fully data-driven. So this is based in three main pillars here. The first is dynamic ad formats. Campaigns are becoming a lot more dynamic, really focusing more on that bottom of the line common denominator across the advertising campaigns and using AI to tweak them slightly based on individual user behaviors to put the right ad with the right message in front of the right person. Automated bidding is a key feature of AI, especially with paid social. Using that predictive AI modeling in the background, relying on data, creating that feedback loop to consistently improve campaign performance throughout the campaign's lifetime and allow it to scale. And then finally, as I mentioned briefly, AI-assisted creative, so the generative AI elements of this technology to help advertisers create really engaging content. So what this means for brands, from a more practical point of view, it means more consolidated account structures. So where in the past there were lots of maybe multiple campaigns running at the same time, doing lots of different things, trying to test different things out, the best use of AI is to really try and hone in on that core key message and allow the AI to tweak and adapt. And so this produced a bit of a paradigm shift in the way that we conceptualize campaigns and strategize how we define them and run them. And the second part is that data has to take center stage now. It's really important to focus on a robust data management, making sure that all of the data that brands have, from first-party data to website data, all of that is being used to help feed into the campaign information and produce more consistent and scalable results. And then thirdly, because of this increase in reliance on data, there's also an important increase in the reliance on data privacy. So making sure that consumers' privacy is being respected at all stages and using some of the AI tools to make sure that that is both taken care of, but also treats that as an opportunity for advertisers.
So Ian, I know we're going to circle back to first-party data later in the webinar, but before we move on, Roddy, perhaps I can ask you what TikTok's perspective on the evolution is.
Yeah, Faye, so when we think of the evolution of paid social, I think the first step is to understand what is the evolution of social overall. And it's no secret in the media industry that TikTok has been a catalyst for an evolution of short form video content taking center stage. So we see that short form video content is the key piece of content for organic, and now that's becoming the main piece of content that we see across paid social as well. It's been incredibly impactful. And there's a lot of AI that's around the delivery of that type of content. And I'm going to talk about some of the tools surrounding creative and content and AI a bit later in the presentation. But yeah, the big thing that we see is that paid social has evolved to focus on short form content as opposed to long form content or images and pictures.
Great, I'll look forward to hearing about that later as we move through. So the second section of our webinar, let's talk about next generation strategies. Roddy, you just mentioned AI in there as well. So let's talk about AI for optimization and for creative. Ian, perhaps you can kick this off for us.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to talk about is the AI developed campaign formats that we have available to us now as advertisers. And then I'll talk a bit more about the creative side of things. Firstly, this is Advantage Plus. It's a campaign format from Meta. It's their biggest AI optimization to date, and essentially it's a campaign that allows us to optimize from all stages of the funnel, from awareness to consideration to conversion, all within one campaign. And it does this by leveraging businesses' data, first-party data, campaign performance, constantly analyzing in real time and creating those ads that are relevant for each individual user, like I said, in real time. So when we've done this with some of our clients, we've seen a 25% reduction in the cost per lead or the cost per sale, just by the nature of this campaign being able to scale and grow and adapt. And when we feed it with the right data from our clients, we can see that it's really utilizing that data in the best way with AI to provide the best results.
Roddy, you've got something similar over at TikTok, right?
Yeah, exactly. So where Meta has Advantage Plus, TikTok has Smart Performance Campaign. So if we look at the next slide, I'm going to go into that in a bit more detail. So when we think of finding the right solution for paid, it's all about analyzing, optimizing, and that can be a really, really manual approach, and it can take a lot of time and manpower. And this is where AI can come in to help advertisers, and it can come in to help agencies as well. So our Smart Performance Campaign will let our AI algorithm take control in optimizing the data or analyzing the data and making the correct optimizations for you. So you don't have to spend, hours looking through and creating 10 plus campaigns, 30 plus ad groups with 40 plus creators for each of them, all of a sudden it becomes a massive, massive lift. And this just takes all of that out of your hands and puts it into the power of the algorithm. So first thing it does is create less manpower investment, which is great for advertisers and agencies. And the most important thing is that it improves performance. On the next slide, I'm going to go through a little bit more detail about how it actually works. So for a non-smart performance campaign, you have to make the adjustments at the campaign level. So you create your campaign, then you make manual adjustments and changes at the ad group level, and then you make creative changes at the ad level. When creative fatigue comes in, you have to manually change your creative, put them in and out, constantly checking performance day in, day out. And then when we look at smart performance, you do one thing. You set your campaign objective with geo-targeting and your budget, and the algorithm takes control, and it will find the right solution for you and the right formula to drive the best results. So who can this be used for, or who's this relevant for? So on the next slide, we can see that it's great for people who are new to TikTok. So if you're new to TikTok, you might not understand what the best testing approach is because it's quite a sophisticated and new platform. Well, this takes the power out of your hands, puts it into the hands of the algorithm, and it will find the best approach for you. It's great for both enterprise advertisers and SMB advertisers who don't have hands-on management resources. And it's really, really great for people who are highly performance orientated. So it's going to find the best performance solution and formula for you. And of course, performance orientated and e-com advertisers go hand in hand. So it's great for e-com advertisers as well.
Amazing, thanks. Ian, you talked to us about using AI for campaign optimization at the top of the webinar today. Perhaps you can sort of talk to us a bit more about AI and content creation.
Absolutely. So when it comes to AI, there are two sides of the coin. You may have heard of the difference between predictive AI and generative AI. Predictive AI is what we use to harness all of the data that we have and use it to make predictions and understand, and that's what we can use to help optimize our campaigns. That's the kind of AI that runs in the background. Then there's generative AI, which is AI that is used to create. So for this example, this is something that Meta is releasing, rolling out globally, called the AI Sandbox. And it consists of 3 tools that advertisers can use to improve their ad creation through AI. So on the left, we see something that's creating text variations. It's a prompt style AI generator. So you put in the USPs, what the campaign is about, the key things that you want to focus on, and it will generate a set of text variations that are optimized for that platform that Meta thinks will be able to get the best results. So this saves time with copywriting, it saves time with creating ad variations, and allows us to test a lot of things all at once. The middle one is a background generator. So this is specifically designed for product ads, and it helps advertisers stand out a bit from the crowd with that typical sort of white product background. It's also a prompt style AI where you can put in the information that you'd like to see, the type of background that you want to see, and it will generate that behind the product. So it's a really great way to make images a lot more engaging. And then the third one, this is something that my media team is very excited about. Considering that most social media is consumed on mobile devices, the format for that is vertical phone format, smartphone format. And a lot of advertisers may not necessarily have all of the creative that they need in that format. And there's AI, which is called outcropping, which uses the context of the image to create sort of an extension on it to make it in that right format. So this is really useful for advertisers who have really great creative, but maybe not in the right format for mobile devices.
So yeah, Ian, we actually have something very similar at TikTok, which is our generative AI script tool. So this is great on TikTok because anyone on TikTok would know that any strong video has the textbook TikTok overlay caption that drives people through a sales narrative. So you'll notice that black and white text that might put a strong hook into a video. It might mention the USPs of a product and just drive the messaging while the actual video itself is running in the background. And this is a great way of testing different variations. And we actually have a tool that will generate those pieces of text for you. So very similar to that first tool that Ian was mentioning with the Meta AI Sandbox. That's our TikTok version of that, which is our AI powered ad script. And I'm going to mention how that can be used in practice a little bit later on. But Ian, you have some other examples of third-party tools that you use at Tug as well.
Yeah, exactly. So when we talk about these tools, the ones we're talking about until now have been things that are developed within the platforms, but with this sort of AI revolution that's happening, there's a lot of additional third-party companies that have started to use AI as a way to layer on additional features. And these are two third-party brands that we work with, specifically designed for product feeds. If you look at the example on the right from Adidas, again, it's that product image on a sort of plain white standard background. And using this technology, you can fill it with all of the different types of parameters that you'd want to layer on to be a bit more intriguing for your customers. So things like current sales that might be going on, the percentage discount, the name of the product, and potentially like a slash price. And the AI comes into play by leveraging this across an entire suite of products. Some brands may have thousands of products that they want to advertise, and it will put the right flags on top of that ad based on what the algorithm thinks will be the most effective for that user, based on things like other brands that they've interacted with, other products that they've purchased through the platform. So it's working all in real time across an entire suite of products for individual users in real time, which is a really cool additional feature. Finally, I wanted to share a case study of when we've used this sort of campaign with a client of ours. This is a case study for End. They're a high-end fashion retailer based in the UK. They came to us and wanted to test paid social through Meta. So we proposed the Advantage Plus campaign strategy with them. And the first thing we did was make sure that the data was all robust and relevant and able to send all the key information through the campaign to help those algorithms optimize. So this is things like all of the product IDs on their site matching up with the Meta Pixel, being able to track all of the things from viewing an item to adding it to carts to starting the checkout process to finally the purchase. And all that data is constantly being used within a feedback loop to help optimize this campaign. So you can see the example on the left, we used a hero video for one of their seasonal campaigns, and then the products underneath were dynamically generated based on individual users' behaviors and based on what the campaign using AI determined would be the most relevant products for those individual users. So we were able to take one big campaign message and sort of expand it out for their entire suite of products, which was a really interesting way to generate a lot of data about these products and be able to focus on lots of different products at once. And we saw within this test phase of running this campaign, we saw 122% reduced average cost per sale compared to the campaigns that they were running previously. And the average basket size from these sales increased by 34%. So we can really start to see the impact that this AI has for scaling campaigns.
That's so super helpful as well to actually see those strategies in action and being played out, especially when they get such great results as well. Thank you for that, Ian. Now with End, you talk specifically about Meta. What about if you're using more than one channel, and how do you kind of connect those to provide a holistic paid social strategy?
Yeah, so the key thing there, this moves into sort of using our first party data. So when we design a strategy for a client, we don't want to think just in particular channels. We think about the strategy as a whole. And there are strengths of each channel that we want to lean into to design that strategy and make it efficient overall, so that the overall cost per sale or cost per lead for a client is then reduced and optimized. So just to highlight a couple of those strengths for Reddit, for example, for those of you who aren't familiar with Reddit, it's really focused around these communities called subreddits. These are really active communities for very particular niche topics. So financial services comes to mind and personal finance comes to mind. There's a really active community about people talking about finance, different products, different sort of interest rates and bank accounts that they might want to purchase. And so these are people who really leaned into that particularly niche topic. And so for advertisers who want to get in front of those kind of people who are already engaging with the kind of content that's aligned with their brand, Reddit is a great way to start that conversation and generate interest. Meta, as we know, is the world's largest social network. So there's a really great opportunity there to reach a wide audience. And there's the additional benefit of being able to optimize across Instagram and Facebook at the same time. And also Meta is making some really great advancements in terms of AI innovations that, as I've mentioned, have been really useful for us as an agency. With TikTok, I think one of the key benefits here is the unique audience. Roddy, I think you have some stats here about the overlap.
Yeah, so we see that approximately 50% of people that use TikTok don't use either of the meta platforms, that's Facebook or Instagram. So this is really, really impactful insight for people who want to diversify their social channels and make sure they're driving new user acquisition of people that they haven't touched in previous campaigns.
Another one of the things that we find really useful for TikTok advertising is the discovery element of it. The way that it's designed is designed around discovering and really engaging with these videos in a way that some of the other channels just aren't able to do. So that's a really a useful feature there. And then for LinkedIn, very powerful B2B audience targeting. So with LinkedIn, we can target people based on seniority, industry, even the exact companies that they work for. So for brands who are really focused on B2B customer acquisition, it's a great place to do that awareness building. So how do these all play together? I'm going to give two examples of how we leverage first-party data to essentially link these channels together and provide a really holistic strategy for paid social. So for this example, to take the fintech example again, maybe we have a brand who wants to get in front of people who are in those subreddits for finance, personal finance, fintech, things like that, and they can put those ads in front of a community that's already active and engaged. And as they then visit the website, they enter into a retargeting list where they can then be shown ads on platforms like Meta and TikTok. So essentially leveraging that initial audience of really engaged users. And then as they continue down their journey to purchase, they can also be added into lists for existing customers, and that data can then be leveraged by AI to find similar users. So a really great way to create this sort of holistic strategy around paid social channels. Similarly for B2B, as I mentioned, LinkedIn has really, really strong B2B targeting options. And as those users then interact with the website, we can create lookalike audiences and retargeting audiences around them. This is a really great way to utilize a channel like Meta, which is not necessarily thought of as a real B2B targeting channel, but because of its size, there's a really great opportunity to retarget those people from LinkedIn and similar users from your B2B kind of first-party data and really leverage that power from AI on Meta with the audiences that were generated originally from LinkedIn. Finally, case study around this. This is a case study we did with Bluebeam. They're a global construction software company. They generally, in the past, use LinkedIn primarily because of its strong B2B targeting. And for them, Meta was mostly done for a bit of awareness and then additional site traffic, but it really wasn't the primary lead gen driver for them. So by using a strategy like this and really leveraging their first-party data and existing customer data, we were able to help them use not only LinkedIn, but also Meta as a key lead gen platform. And we worked a lot with always-on content to ensure that the campaigns had time to optimize and continue to grow and expand and learn from the data that was being collected. And we worked a lot with lead magnet content, so things like white papers, downloadable content, and studies that the brand had done. And this would only be accessible if the user put in their information. So to generate a lead, they had to fill out that form, and it was all done in-app in a really efficient way. And we were able to see a 75% reduction in cost per lead across the board for them when implementing the strategy.
That's such an interesting point about using Meta for B2B, and I'm really glad you raised it. I mean, as a brand, a B2B brand, you'd normally leap straight to LinkedIn, right? That's just very naturally would go. So yeah, it is interesting that you mentioned the Meta phase of it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting statistic that Meta is actually the largest B2B social network just based on its sheer size. We think of LinkedIn as that pure business B2B network, but if we can leverage the data in the right way, all of the customers that you would want to target on LinkedIn are probably using Facebook and Instagram as well. So if we can get in front of them, then it's a really great opportunity to find that same audience.
Amazing, thanks, Ian. Roddy, can we just circulate back to the AI tool that you mentioned a few slides back? How can a brand or how can an agency kind of begin to use that in their strategy?
Yeah, so this all focuses around creative. And I even said, Faye, at the start that the key for TikTok is innovation around creative. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll give you a breakdown of how this works. So when we think of creative and we think of TikTok, we know that if I spend enough time on TikTok, TikTok's going to show me the content that I want to see. With the strength of that algorithm organically, is what we used when it comes to driving paid delivery, ad delivery as well. So how do brands lean into that? How do businesses lean into that? Well, it's all about understanding how our feedback loop structures work. So we have different sections within the video that our algorithm knows if a certain user watches past this point, they're interested in the content. So that's feedback that our algorithm is now giving to your ad delivery. So if you make your hook very target market specific, for example, if it's FinServe, you know, how I help sort out my finances every month, or here's a tool that I use to decrease my unnecessary spending, we know that people who watch past that point are interested in that video. And in the visual example here, we have 9 dots, and that represents maybe 900 people that are shown this ad initially. 2 of those dots are the groups of people that watch past that 2-second point. And we know, okay, these people were interested in the ad. Let's show it to more of these types of people. And this is how you leveraged hooks to get in front of the right type of people. So you might find when you go onto the ads platform that your specific industry isn't there in the targeting capabilities, but that's not an issue because any advertiser can find their target audience on TikTok using creative and using hooks to do that. So it's really, really impactful. I actually have some interesting data around hooks on the next slide. So we find that on TikTok, as I said, the first 2 seconds is the hook, and this is where you land your content value proposition. So it's not just target market specific, but it should tell users what they're going to see if they continue to watch. So how I helped, you know, sort out my personal finances. You know what you're going to watch if you can, or you know what you're going to see if you continue to watch. So this is really important. And then the next 4 seconds are also crucial. We find that 90% of the ad recall impact happens in that 4-second period after the hook, and 80% of the awareness impact happens after the hook. So how does this link back to the AI tool? So on the next slide, we're going to revisit that. So as I said, your hook is really important, but you need to test lots of different variations of hooks and USPs and ad text to find the formula that will work for you. Very similarly to the smart performance tool, this is doing that at a creative level. So you're giving it prompts in terms of what your product is or your service is and some of the unique setting points, and then our tool will create a script for your ad to test multiple variations and find not only the solution that works for you, but a solution that finds your target market on the platform. So really, really impactful.
That 2-second window still blows my mind, Roddy. I mean, do you think that that's, or how significantly do you think that that's kind of changed over the years? You know, there's a lot of talk about shorter attention spans for the younger generation coming up and constant, faster content consumption. Is that the nature of the platform? Is that kind of what we're seeing?
Yeah, so even at the very start, you know, my first takeaway was that TikTok has innovated how other platforms use video content, and TikTok has made video content shorter and more snappy, and that just means that on TikTok the hook is a little bit shorter, and it's the same across a lot of other social media platforms. They're using that TikTok style of content but within their own platform. So it's TikTok led, but the industry is following that.
Yeah, we see a lot with Reels on Instagram and Facebook, clearly using the same format as Reddit because of how effective it is.
Exactly. Don't forget, if you've got a point of view or a question, just to remind everyone, do please fire those in. I can see a couple coming in as well, which is great. Okay, on to the third section for our webinar today. I mean, everything we've discussed sounds super exciting, right? But without a robust way to unlock first-party data, it's going to be pretty useless, right? So, Ian, how can we integrate this into paid social campaigns?
Sure. So there's kind of a shift, I think, that I want to mention here in terms of the old way of doing digital marketing and what we do now with the advent of all of these AI opportunities. So previously, it was a very linear process where you would activate a campaign, you'd analyze the results, and then you'd make some decisions on how you might want to optimize that for the next sort of round of that process. With an AI model, the first thing we do is make sure that we have a robust set of data to work with. So first-party data, website data, customer data, and then we feed that into the AI algorithms, and we activate the campaigns based on that. And this is constantly creating a feedback loop where the data from the campaigns is feeding back into the AI, and the new first-party data that's being collected is also feeding into that. So creating this really scalable opportunity within a campaign. But the key thing here is still that there is that human element that sits on top of all of it. So from a first-party data point of view, that means making sure that advertisers, brands, and agencies working with them make sure that that data is robust and accurate. The second part is making sure that we are telling the AI what we want to achieve. So that means working with brands to determine what their sort of goals would be in terms of cost per sale. We can set target cost per leads and that sort of thing to make sure the AI knows what it's working towards. And then from the activation point of view, I think this is a crucial element, because in the past we were the ones making the adjustments in the way that we would set bids and the way that we would set certain factors in the campaign. But now, because of this AI that's sort of adapting to market changes and adapting to user behavior, we can learn from the performance a lot better from our campaigns, and we can then take that on board to think about how we were going to improve our campaigns down the line. So kind of a different mindset shift, but really powerful way of running campaigns. And just to dig in a little bit deeper about that data side of things, there's three key elements that we focus on when we want to make sure that that data is robust. The first is using the data layer. We typically do this with Google Tag Manager with our clients, essentially making sure that all of the data on the site, things like product IDs, the number of items added to cart, the value of each stage in the checkout process, that's all being collected and sent to the advertising platform so they can use that data to optimize. The second one is enhanced conversions, sometimes called enhanced matching or advanced matching. And what this does is for users that are opting out of cookies, as we know, third-party cookies are slowly going away. This allows brands who have customers and users who are logged into their platforms. For example, with Meta or TikTok, if they're logged in but they've rejected cookies, then that user can still be synced up from the beginning and from the end. So that middle bit is then blocked from cookies, but because of that connection with logged in data, that can be sort of connected on both ends in a way that is anonymous and private for the user as well. And the third thing is server-side tracking. So traditionally, what's called client-side tracking, the information would be sent directly from the website to either Meta or TikTok or Google or whatever the platform is that's being used. Whereas with server-side tracking, the client, the brand owns their data into a server, and that becomes then first-party data. And the data is only shared with the advertising platforms when a key action happens. So it's only sharing that a user completed a purchase or added something to cart, and not just sending the entire information about their behavior on the site. So this makes things a lot more private for the user and allows brands to collect more first-party data. I think, Roddy, you've got some information about how TikTok leverages these two options for user privacy.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Before I get into that, I'd like to give you an example as to why this is really important. So before I worked with agencies like Tug, I was working with direct clients. And about a year ago, I had a direct client who were setting up a brand new website and a brand new brand name. So this was going to be starting completely from fresh. And they said, okay, we're going to focus just on TikTok. We're not going to advertise on any other social media platform, and we're not going to do any marketing outside of that. So we knew that any sales that came through their website came from TikTok. But the problem arose when we saw that, let's say for every 200 sales that we'd see on the website, only about 120 of them were being attributed to TikTok. And we knew that they were coming from TikTok because there was no other advertising source. So this is a great example to show that regular attribution models, when it's just like a regular pixel, they do have issues in terms of measuring attribution. And this is really important when it comes to ad delivery as well, because Ian, as you know, you need signals coming back to optimize. And if you're missing, 40% of your signals, you're missing 40% of the power of your optimization. So we've developed Events API on TikTok, which is a service-to-server tracking solution that increases attribution and also increases measurement as a result and optimization. And Ian, you've utilized this for a client of yours within Tug, and how's that gone?
Yeah, when we've used server-side tracking, we've seen really good results. We've seen a lot more conversions coming through, and so we're able to really get a better idea of the direct impact that our campaigns are having. But also, as you mentioned, it's not just about the analysis side of things. Once we have more data coming through, it means that the algorithms have more data to optimize with, which helps the long-term campaign performance overall.
Exactly. Yeah, it's super, super important. On the next slide, I'll just give you a few examples as to why it's even more important. The first is that it's very streamlined around stability and security. So Ian mentioned that with Events API or server-to-server tracking, you can create configurations that are data compliant for your company. So you're not at the whim of what that pixel is set up on when it comes to the platform. You can actually create it and customize it for the needs of your business. And the next is that it is key for driving maximum event measurement, and I mentioned that at the start. This is really important, not just to show, okay, this is how many sales this drove, but it's great for developing strong data for our algorithms to use to deliver your ads correctly. So how does this work in practice? Well, I'll give you a bit of a breakdown on the next slide. So let's say someone's on TikTok and they click on your ad. TikTok then appends a click ID to the click landing page URL, so a specific URL, and you capture and store the click ID with your customer information. So you've got your own server-side tracking set up, and this is all tracked within that. And then you can send the feedback back to TikTok once an event is triggered. So as the person navigates the website and triggers those events, you are actually sending that feedback back to TikTok. So we are capturing everything that's happening. TikTok then can match the click ID, and using something called advanced matching, which is called, what's called on Meta in Conversion Plus, is it right? Enhanced conversions.
Also advanced matching.
Okay, yeah, so we have advanced matching on TikTok as well, where we use the sign up login or phone number and match it to the data that you have on your website so that we can actually find that user that way. And it's a great way of just bolstering up the tracking as well. And then the matched customer information is used, as we said, to build target audiences, great for retargeting, optimizing automatically through our algorithm, and then of course measuring the campaign results becomes a lot more sophisticated and detailed. So on the next slide, I'll just go very briefly into some of the reasons why advanced matching is also important. So this is an additional tool on top of Events API. So this is where you can expand your reach, boost ad performance, and measure full funnel events. And this is through toggling that advanced matching option to match emails and phone numbers that logins are used for TikTok with some of the data and the first party data that you have on your website. So how does this work and how does this actually drive results? Well, it's really, really important. So we see that on average, advertisers have a 37% lower CPA when they use advanced matching and pair it with Events API, and a 103% lift in conversion rate. So huge results, really, really impactful. And then I have a case study on the next slide with an advertiser of ours that we work with called Shaku. And I won't go through everything on the slide, I'll go through the real impact. So we saw a 470% increase in realized conversions for this client and 65% reduction in cost per acquisition. And that's one of many case studies that we have around the improvement that comes with Events API.
Thanks, Roddy. Some powerful stats there. Again, I mean, as an agency, we're seeing, a big shift and trend towards server-side tracking, and I'm sure we'll continue to see that as well. Great. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I mean, let me lead us into the fourth section, I think, of our webinar today. We've talked about some pretty spectacular strategies that we can adapt to, but how do we now, as marketeers, kind of connect those dots, and how do we bridge those kind of seemingly disconnected data sets for better data-led informed investment decisions? Ian, perhaps you can kick us off with this.
Yes, so another really powerful AI is what's called sometimes causal impact, or media mix modeling, sometimes referred to as MMM. Essentially what this is it's using an AI model to determine the real impact that a campaign has on the business's bottom line. So we generally tend to use a lot of short-term tracking with pixels and the things that we've mentioned, which give a great idea of how the campaign is directly impacting performance of a website. But there's also a lot of other factors. So there's things, other advertising that might be happening, things that are changing in the market. And so what this does in the first stage of it is to collect a lot of different variables and feed them into that AI tool. So those are things like campaign performance, marketing data, sales, promotions, but also macroeconomic data like inflation or seasonality, and even things like the average price of sugar, things that really help us understand market fluctuations. And all of that gets fed into an AI model to determine when we ran a campaign, what was the predicted effect if that campaign had never happened versus what is the effect now that it did run. And that gives us a really more nuanced view of the impact that our campaigns are having on a business's bottom line. There are some tools within the platforms that we use that allow this kind of a test. This is something that both Meta and TikTok do. The first one is a brand lift study, and the second one is a conversion lift study. So essentially how this works is the target audience is randomly split into two groups. One group sees the advertisement and the other group doesn't. And then there's a testing phase. So for brand lift, this testing phase is a survey that users will receive in their feed. You may have seen these yourself when you're online. And it's just sort of asks things like, have you seen an ad from any of these brands in the last week? Or which of these brands do you recognize in terms of a certain type of product, or what do you associate with this kind of an industry? The conversion lift study uses the tracking pixel to do the same thing. So it says, there was a group of people who saw these ads and there was a group of people who didn't. How did that have an effect on purchases on the website? So this is really powerful for paid social because it acts as a channel that does both conversion and awareness. So this gives us the opportunity to see, okay, maybe there were some people who saw the ad, but they didn't necessarily click on it right away and purchase, but it did lead them to purchase down the line. So this is a really powerful way of seeing that sort of awareness and brand awareness impact on a campaign. However, there are some limitations with using those tools that are only platform specific because they won't be able to understand the sort of factors that are happening outside of that platform. And this is where we've developed a tool internally, which we call Real Impact, that does that causal modeling and allows us to see that impact across all of the channels that we run, all of the campaigns that are active, and also any other marketing activity that the brand might be engaged in. So a couple examples on the left, we've run this with 2 clients so far, Zipcar and End. We were able to see that incremental impact in revenue growth on the business. So often clients will come to us and they'll say, yeah, we want to run this campaign and we see that it's had results, but how much of that revenue would have been generated anyway from other brand activity? Or how much does an out-of-home campaign actually have an impact on the bottom line in our revenue growth? And so this allows us to put that into an AI model and really determine with a level of statistical confidence whether that result really did have an impact. And we can see from the point where the campaign began, whether that's causing essentially deviation in the expected performance based on all of those historical data elements. So a really powerful tool.
Yeah, you're right, Ian. I mean, it's a powerful tool, not only for us as an agency to help better plan where best to put the media for that business outcome, but for our clients as well, and for anyone that is a sort of senior marketer online, to be able to report that data and insights further back up the line for wider stakeholders within the business, to help them understand brand awareness activity and the sort of incremental impacts you say in within that bottom line of performance metrics is really great. It's really powerful. We're seeing great results from it. What about you, Roddy? How are you doing that over at TikTok? How are you closing the loop, so to speak?
Yeah, so the reason that I want to focus on the idea of closing the loop is, we have lots of sophisticated ways of approaching all the different data points and measuring impact across lots of different social media channels. But sometimes the simplest solution is actually the best solution. And that is within TikTok, we have some ad solutions that close the loop. So it stops people from going off app. So everything is captured within TikTok, so we lose no data. This is great for data compliance and also for measurement and optimization as well. The same way that server-side tracking is really great with data compliance as well. So when we look at this, we have 2 solutions that I want to talk about today. The first is for e-commerce clients, and this is TikTok Shop. So some of you might have heard of TikTok Shop, some of you might not have. So it's an actual e-commerce platform on TikTok, and it's the future of e-commerce. It's going to be the future of e-commerce worldwide, and it's currently the future of e-commerce in the UK. So how does this work when it comes to advertising? So you can set up a TikTok Shop. On this slide, we have 2 different ad formats. We have our video shopping ad format. So this is where you use your shoppable videos to drive sales to your actual TikTok shop. So everything happens within app. So there's a seamless checkout process for our users, and it's connected to the videos that they're watching. So it's perfect for people to discover, consider, and buy in one session. Hugely impactful. And the next is our live shopping ads option. So people within the TikTok Shop community run lives. It might be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours going through their different product catalog, what's selling well, what's not. And it's a great way for engaging potential customers and getting them to buy in that same flow as we talked about for the video shopping ads. On the next slide, I'll just go through a few key benefits. As I mentioned, improved checkout flow, so people aren't waiting for a website to load off app and dropping off that way, or rejecting cookies or all that sort of stuff. All happens in TikTok, so that's gone. You can retarget shop audiences. So as we have all the data, it means we have more data to use for retargeting, which is great. We have full conversion data visibility. We are going to see every piece of conversion. I mentioned that example earlier on when it came to that brand that set up and they were advertising on TikTok, but they weren't seeing the conversions come through in the pixel. That won't happen with TikTok Shop. You will see every conversion come through. You can have creator collaborations at scale. So TikTok Shop isn't just used for the brands. We actually have a whole affiliate network where people can come in, order your product, and create content for you on the platform to drive sales. And then finally, what does this all do? It has a huge impact on performance. We see incredible ROAS numbers for advertisers who use TikTok Shop in the e-commerce space. But I know a lot of you on the line are not e-commerce advertisers, so we have an inbuilt solution for everyone else as well, and that's our incredible lead generation solution. So this is around the consideration and the conversion stage for services or fintech, education. All these types of industries are really, really strong on TikTok when it comes to lead gen. So how does that work? On the next slide, we can see that there are two different lead gen solutions. We have our website lead gen, which is pixel based. And then we have our native lead gen, which is where you close the loop. And it's very similar to TikTok Shop in the sense that nothing is lost. Every piece of data will stay with you when it comes to native lead gen. I have a few examples of how this will work well in different industries. On automotive, it's a massive, massive industry for us on TikTok when it comes to lead gen. Hashtag car TikTok has over 14 billion views. On the next slide, we can see that it actually drives results as well. So 50%, that's around half of TikTok users who viewed car content went on to purchase a car after they discovered or were inspired on TikTok. So that's incredible, hugely impactful. And then the next example I want to have a look at is, within automotive, how can you use these pieces of lead generation content to drive results? Well, you can drive people to sign up for test drives, announce new launch models, book a service appointment, a newsletter opt-in, signing in up for upcoming offers, or registering for events, to name but a few. Now we're going to move to FinServe. So we mentioned FinServe. Ian says it's a big thing in Reddit. It's also a huge thing in TikTok as well. So hashtag finance has over 6 billion views. So if you think of TikTok being a place where people discover and they want to learn about a subject, that's why things like FinServe and people talking about automotive decisions happens on TikTok. They're all helping each other out making those decisions. On the next slide, we can see that over 70% of TikTok users have made an unplanned financial products or service decision or purchase after seeing it on TikTok. Incredible results. So what sort of decisions can we get them to make? Well, we'll see on the next slide that within lead gen, we can have people sign up for credit cards, bank accounts, insurance offerings on TikTok. They can generate quotes and register for loan applications. They can opt in for newsletters, be put into lead generation models for wealth management services, and build lists for loyalty programs. So that's lead generation for B2B and service industries, and then for e-commerce, we have TikTok Shop. So you can close the loop with both of those offerings and ad products, which means that you don't lose the data, you don't have issues around data compliance, it's all within TikTok. So some great solutions for advertisers and agencies.
That's quite phenomenal stats you've got there. I mean, literally the opportunities are boundless, right? That's amazing. I can't quite believe the time, but that rounds up our bulk of content in our webinar today. We've gone through some amazing points, some great points of view. I think we've got time to shoehorn in a quick question or two before we go. So I picked out one as we've gone through. This question is actually to both of you. Thank you to Ben Doyle for submitting this question. Now, you both talked a lot about opportunities and some great opportunities for paid social for brands. But what about challenges. He asks, any watch outs for brands in particular? Ian, perhaps I can come to you first.
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge is the sort of mindset shift that's happening with AI. So really focusing on that data, and that really sometimes requires working with different teams who previously may not have been as in such close contact. So if you have sort of a data ops team or an analytics team, marketers really need to be able to work a lot closer together to sync that data up and make sure that the campaigns can really take best advantage of it.
And Roddy, how about you?
Yeah, I think it comes down to measurement and having advertisers be set up for measurement. So if you're not ready to move with the times, or you don't have a team that kind of understands these holistic measurement results, it can be quite a daunting task, and it can make things quite difficult as things get more complicated. But this is where agencies like Tug come into play, where they have such a nuanced view of how this works, and they're experts in the space, that they can drive that for you. And we have great relationship with Tug, and we work together very well to drive those results and create a holistic view around your campaigns. So it's a problem, but there is a solution, and that's working with partners like Tug and the platforms themselves like TikTok.
Fantastic. Thanks to you both. Now, before I close off our session today, have you got a key takeout that we can perhaps leave our listeners with? Ian, over to you.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing to take from this is that the AI revolution is here, and it's only going to continue to advance and get even more interesting and complex. And I think that on the one hand, while it's exciting and there's a lot of things that can be tested out, over time, the industry will be a lot more competitive as a lot of advertisers start to take up these opportunities and use these tools. So now's the time to start thinking about how to stay ahead of the curve with all of this. So being really clever, using all of the tools that are available, but also continuing to think about being one step ahead and how to stand out in the crowd.
Quick takeout from you, Roddy.
Yeah, I think it's about leaning into the power of the platforms that you're using. And when it comes to TikTok, I mentioned throughout this webinar that creative is the key. And this, as I said, it can be difficult to approach this in the right way when it comes to direct advertisers, but we at TikTok have a great relationship with Tug, and we're creating bespoke packages for Tug's client pool and new business opportunities when it comes to TikTok strategies. So you can expect to hear from us in the next few days in terms of setting up meetings if you'd like, or please feel free to reach out to the Tug team after the presentation if you want to set up a meeting with myself and Ian or other members of the Tug team to talk about that in more detail.
Fantastic. Thank you. I can't believe we're at our end of our session already today. Thank you to my amazing guests, Ian and Roddy. Thank you to everyone who's been on the line and joined us. We will send the recording. Please do get in touch at hello@tugagency.com if you want to chat about anything you've heard today. Look out for the invite for our next webinar. Goodbye from all of us, and thanks again.
Bye-bye.
See ya.